people oftentimes will put pigs in the mangers, but remember back then, those folks didn't think it was right to eat ham, so.
Oh, right.
There's a bunch of us that believe to this day that's a good plan. Jim, we feel like you're a radio personality tonight.
You got some ears. You got your ears on.
It's his ears and it's the sort of background that just looks like a radio studio.
Welcome to the evening drive time, the evening zoo, coming to you live from Pantops. It's crazy out there on this hump day.
You're hired. You're
Ask
hired,
me
Jim.
anything tonight that Jim's going, oh my God.
Was it last night? Because I woke up and had moonlight streaming into my window, which would explain a lot of things if it was a full moon last night.
It was.
Close.
Oh,
Well, I think the full moon was maybe Monday, but it might have been last night.
Yeah.
I think it was Monday, yeah.
All right. That helps me understand a lot. All right. How many people do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4.
You have your entire board except for Kelsey.
7. Yes. Okay. That's what I'm looking for. All right. Well, it's 31. Let's give Kelsey a couple more minutes and see. That baby may be a distraction, as babies often are.
You didn't say anything about Sean being a radio personality.
that's
I just put
right.
mine on to look like you.
Yeah.
Got it. Or Breck.
Yeah, what is it with the guys? Well,
Right,
no,
the guys all have
Stan is the one who doesn't. We'll have to get you a pair, Stan, so you can be
Yeah.
like all the other males.
Well, I can hear just fine, and I'm not bothering anybody in the house, so.
There you go. So I'm coming to you live and in person from Atlas Coffee, where people keep yanking on the door thinking that we're open because the lights are on. So if you see me doing something like this, that's because there's somebody else yanking on the door.
Noticing we have
And
closed captioning tonight.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's a new feature. Zoom just installed recently.
And if I seem distracted for a minute, I just got a notification that somebody logged on to a computer of mine that I haven't opened for a week or two. So I'm gonna try to check my security settings.
Uh-oh.
How is Atlas doing, Lori?
We've definitely been doing better when the students are all here. It's a little disconcerting now that they're gone. So we'll see. I mean, Monday was Monday the miserable rainy day? I can't remember. So that was a giveaway. But yesterday and today were not great either. So we'll see. Kind of using the 3 weeks now until winter break to get a feel for it. And I didn't make a schedule beyond Christmas in case, you know, we have to make scheduling cuts. No one wants to say the word layoff, but yeah, my kids may be working for free during their winter break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And David Shutt, who is my UVA insider, tells me that the students aren't coming back till February. So.
Oh yeah, yeah. I know they're not coming back till February.
So your traffic could be a lot less.
Well, it's not the students. It's not the undergrads that is our bread and butter. It's all the people that support the students. It's the, you know, the instructors and the TAs and the grad students and, you know, the physicians and the people that run the dorms and, you know, everyone at Fontaine and the hospital. And, you know, without the what, 12,000 students here to keep them busy. They don't have a reason to come into town. So that's what we're missing, not those undergrads. It's
For
all
what
the
it's worth,
real.
the hospital is bursting at the seams with patients.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. And I think, everyone is avoiding as much public contact as they can. And even though, we're super safe, we're serving from a carry out window. We don't even have, contact in any way. And we're probably the safest coffee shop around. I think people are just scared to death at this point. They can see that vaccine on the horizon, and you just need to keep yourself organized until you get a shot. So we'll see. All right, it's 35, and we'll let Kelsey join us when she gets here. But
Does everybody see what I'm sharing?
yes, I see. That's beautiful.
I'll stop sharing in a moment, but I just wanted to give everybody a visual, beautiful image.
Can you talk a little bit about how you created that? Because that's really cool.
Well, actually, Jude is the expert and she's here. That's why I wanted to make sure people saw it. It's a software program that when you put in, we've heard 25 communities, 14 connections, 4 people said Women's Dream Quest. What it does is it converts the number of times the word is said into how big the font is. And so it creates the size of the words. And then Jude created an image out of it, taking the size of the words. So the larger the word, the more we heard this. This was the interim team doing the listening sessions. And this was the answer to what do you love about the congregation?
Beautiful. Image is great. I guess it's a chalice, but it looks like it's got ice cream in it. So I love it.
Okay. So I'll stop sharing, but I just wanted to make sure we saw that while we had a chance.
Very nice. Thank you.
And thanks to Jude.
Thanks, Jude. All right. Well, thank you everyone for coming. This is our combined November, December holidays and holy days board meeting. And I'm looking at our agenda, and it looks like this may be not the longest meeting that we've ever had. I see we have nothing under new business. We have a few things under old, and then all our regular reports. So let's just jump right in. And like I say, we'll just loop Kelsey in when she shows up. All right. Let's start with, opening words. And that's supposed to be me. Well, that's not so great because I don't have any opening words tonight. Would anyone else like to jump in here and offer some opening words? Alex, well timed. Good job, thanks. Would you like to share some opening words with us?
This is from the book Becoming, published by Skinner House, edited by Kayla Parker. I just opened randomly to a chapter that says family, friends, and loves. And I'm going to read the first thing, which is from a Christian tradition, the book of John 15. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. No one has greater love than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. I'm going to go on to the next reading by Jan Carlson Bull. Love is knotted and gnarled like an old tree fighting with the wind, like branches too brittle for their own good, like roots that relentlessly inform how deeply we can trust and how freely we can forgive.
Thank you so much, Alex. You came through in a pinch, and those were beautiful and appropriate. Yes, would you please light the chalice as well?
The chalice has been lit.
Lovely. Thank you so much. All right. We are now looking for a timekeeper and a process observer. I know this is always everyone's favorite job. Let's do the easy one first. Who would like to be the timekeeper? Anyone? Jim, thanks. And
I've never been timekeeper, so I'm just winging it here.
you'll be great.
Yeah.
Process observer,
I'll do the process.
thank you very much. All righty. And now we're up to community time and public comment. There's a 2-minute per person limit. Would anyone like to take advantage of our public comment time? All righty, I see Jude. Go right ahead.
I just want to thank staff for revamping the email that goes out. It is so much easier to read now. So thank you all.
That's a lot of Liberty's hard work that you're seeing in the most recent one that came out last Friday.
Well, it's really great. Thanks, Liberty, then.
All righty, anyone else? All right, moving along then. First up is the acceptance of the agenda. I believe there might be a change in the agenda. Breck, did you have something that you wanted to add to the agenda tonight?
The nominating committee has 2 names that we'd like to put forward for discussion by the board for interim appointments. So I'd like to propose that that be added to the agenda and probably should not need more than 5 minutes of
Okay.
time.
Put that under new business for 5 minutes. Does that sound okay? All right. Anything else to add to the agenda? All right, I make a motion to accept the agenda as written. Would anyone like to second that? Elizabeth, all in favor, raise your hands. And I believe that looks unanimous. All right, the motion is accepted. The agenda is now set. I don't recall seeing any correspondence at the end of the minutes. Does anyone else? No, it was just reports, and I think that was the end of it. All right, let's run through all the reports. First up was the president's report. I have no changes or corrections and nothing in particular that I need to lift up. Any questions about the president's report? All righty, next up, the VP report, also known as the volunteer coordinator for this month. Elizabeth, comments, corrections, anything you want to lift up on that one?
I think that I don't know that she covered as well that Kay is trying to make sure to have more targeted grounds committee opportunities to see if she can have a core group that then expands into a regular visiting by people to do ground. So it's a new way of looking at major committees that perhaps will expand to other tasks in the church. The end.
Mm-hmm. All right. And any questions for Elizabeth on the VP role or the volunteer coordinator? All righty, moving along. Treasurer's report, Stan, anything you want to add?
Well, I do want to just double check because Jim was asking earlier today about my comment about the next stewardship meeting being this Friday. And I thought that was when it was. Jim doesn't seem to remember it. Linda, is that when it is?
Yeah, I confirmed that to Jim. This
Okay.
was to continue the conversation. We don't yet have a stewardship team. The people that were invited to the conversation were invited to come to another meeting, and we set the date for Friday the 4th at 3 o'clock, I think it is.
Okay.
I'm really appreciative, Stan, that I got that from you because I was able to move some things around it on Friday. And if it had been like tomorrow, I might not have been able to do that. So
Well, I'm glad you can make it.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions for Stan? Anything about the treasurer's report?
I just wanted to clarify, Stan was saying that things seem to be on track. And when you looked at the DAF report, some of the differences between income and from last year to this year, I was wondering about them, but apparently the actual giving is on track. It's just the difference of income from last year because you had a special campaign early on. So if anybody else noticed that in the DAF report. So thanks, Dan, for.
All right. Anything else for Stan? All right, the lead minister report. Linda, anything you want to add or lift up from your report?
Yeah, we're moving into the theme of stillness, and in spite of the fact that I'll be talking with a lot of people and doing a lot of work, I do want to encourage everyone to actually take advantage of exploring this theme, which means let yourself not worry too much about getting all busy and doing things. Let yourself experience a chance to sort of be fallow for a while. And so much stuff happened this fall. I think let it seep into your brain and into your heart. And because I'll tell you, when we come back in January, we're going to be hitting the ground running. And I'm encouraging you all to take advantage of stillness. I've really enjoyed, and a lot of people have commented how much they enjoy the board's welcome part of the service. So there is a sign-up sheet that lives in some Google Doc someplace. And so I hope that Beth will once again invite people to sign up. We have some gap Sundays coming up. So just look ahead and figure out a Sunday you'd be willing to come in and add your brief greeting. It's low impact on your part, low effort on your part, and it means a lot to people. I've gotten a lot of good comments from people about how much they like what you've been saying. I summarized, excuse me?
Question on that?
Yeah.
There are many more Sundays than there are board members. So should we plan to cycle around and do it a second
Yeah,
time?
that's
and
the
a
way
third
we
time?
usually do sign up sheets.
Okay.
Like if we have 4 worship weavers, they each take a Sunday if we have,
Okay.
and then once a month. So with you all, if there's, 8 or 9 of you, I would imagine you'd be on once every couple of months.
Okay.
How many people
That's it.
haven't done it yet?
Yep. Okay.
And it's time for all of us to sign up again. Okay.
There's time for everybody to sign up again. And I would say if you're shy and don't think you do a good job, give it a shot once, but it's not mandatory. It's really, I think, a really wonderful thing to be able to do for the congregation, to see you as a person and hear your voice. So then my report, I summarized the kind of the things that we're moving along with the interim tasks. We're moving into the era with interim tasks where we'll be talking about how can we strengthen some of the places in the congregation systems that we have discerned need some work. And that, of course, is going to be stewardship and communications and some of the work, other work with leaders. And then I gave you an FYI. FYI is for your information. Technically, the board does not need to know or act on things that are FYI, but I believe in that board should be well informed. So I go ahead and fill it in, but they're not really, they're just to keep you informed of what's going on in the different areas. And if you're interested, then this way you get sort of in the know. I did want to lift up that a couple of things, follow up that didn't make it in my report. One is that I have heard from the Charlottesville police again, and they wanted to tell me they were not going to be able to do the review in the 30 days that they're supposed to. So they have, I don't know, I'll have to read the letter again. If they asked for or got an extension, they've extended that period for 2 more weeks. So we're not going to hear back from them. But they at least had the courtesy to tell me that the 30 days we weren't going to hear from them. So I, appreciated getting that letter from them.
Did they say what the problem was, Linda? Why
No, they didn't. I'll copy the letter to you. I just got it and I had a chance to glance over it. You may or may not have realized that when it was a couple of weeks ago, we had the Twitter storm about the complaint letter that we had sent, and it was all supportive of the churches pointing out racial profiling. And I did give another interview to the student newspaper, and also I was on some local TV channel. I had a request from another TV reporter, but the request didn't get to me in time, so I didn't do that. So, and then I wanted to lift up one other thing, which is I hope that everybody understands that while I am at the congregation and while I'm trying to work with folks, it's real important that we all together try to understand how I sometimes see things differently than you all might, and how I feel like it's very important that we kind of ask each other wondering questions and don't move ahead as if old patterns are just the way it has to be. So for instance, I much prefer that people speak directly to the person that's in charge of something that they have concerns with. So if you want to talk to a staff member, start with me, or start with a supervisor of the staff. In other words, it's the board's role is to make sure that the vision is cast and explained, that the vision is funded, and that the health of the congregation is matching its values. And so if there are concerns a board has about anything that's going on, to be sure and check it out with me. Don't just go in and think you can tell the staff what to do. The board's job is to say the goals and values, and how we do it is the staff's role. And so I'd rather have people check with me. So I just wanted to make that clear, that, you know, that's how I like to interact. And just the same way with me is, don't assume that I'm going to do things, tell the board what to do, because I don't. I'll always consult with Lori and the exec and say, is this something that the board should do? Or I'm wondering why the board's doing this. So anyway, just wanted to lift that up and try to help everybody know that I will bumble along and try to do the best I can. And feel free to ask me a question or tell me when you think I'm off base, because that'll help me understand as well what you're working with and your assumptions. And you know, not to say there's anything wrong, it's just that I just realized that it's important for us to, as we get to know each other better and as we work on shared projects, that we have an understanding.
Sure. Excellent. Any other questions for Linda? Liberty?
Yeah, Linda or anyone else, do we have someone dedicated to archiving? Do we have an archivist?
We have had an archivist. It's been Sally and Elizabeth. Am I right, Elizabeth Breeden?
Because I'm just wondering
Well, I mean,
about that Twitter storm and the articles. Like, are we putting that all somewhere so that in years to come people can kind of reference that? I mean, that's a kind of a milestone, I feel like.
So I think Sally was the person that expressed to me the concern that we do need to find an archivist. So that's something that.
And Sally was reassured at one point that all of our board minutes, everything was archived on the web, and she tidied it up and found a great gap. I forgot when the great gap is. But for the very things you're talking about, she's very concerned Sean becomes the setter up of the system. So like as personnel, we went back through the Dropbox, and two of our members, Beverly, Ryan being one of them, got tight enough with themselves to say, no, this has got to be tidied up so you can resource the archive, so you can go find stuff. So I think that indeed, should anybody know of somebody who loves that way of thinking about not just archiving, but then filing it in a way that it's accessible, I don't think you could ever hope that the DAF holds that whole job.
No, it should be in the congregation. I recommend it be a recently retired librarian, somebody who likes working with record keeping and resources, but recently retired, meaning somebody that understands modern technology.
Leah, go ahead.
I had one other thing I wanted to add to my report, but go ahead.
I just wanted to lift up that it was my understanding that Sally Taylor and Wayne Arneson were working on the history documents, and I don't know if that shifted now that Sally's temporarily away.
Sally told me she's leaving. She's not going to do it.
Wayne was very enthusiastic about being involved in that. So I don't know who would be the appropriate person to circle back with him, but he and Sally, I know, had been in conversation about doing that together.
So stuff like the newspaper articles that are, covering the church, would that be under their responsibilities, or is it just on the public record, and I guess it'll have to be pulled up that way? We don't really keep those sort of scrapbook.
I think it'd be lovely if we had somebody scrapbooking every time we get in the media, and I mean, I know I've worked, some of the churches I've worked at, they collect that. And, you know, in fact, you'll see some of the stuff on my website is all the time I was in the media, the different TV interviews I've done and the different newspaper articles I was in. It's because somebody on my staff was collecting it. I didn't have it. Yeah.
So would it be appropriate for Lori to, or Elizabeth to circle back with Wayne and see his intention or interest?
I think maybe I'll do that.
Okay.
I'll do that. Yeah, I'll circle back to Wayne and see if he's interested, and then we can
And
talk.
Linda, add Sandy Bryant. Ask her as well. She's got the skills. And if she knew she had another person, she may answer differently than if you ask her alone.
Sandy Bryant?
Sandy Brooks.
Oh, Brooks, Sandy Brooks.
Sorry.
Okay, good. And then the other thing I wanted to lift up is, you may remember from our second day of our board retreat, we had come up with the questions of time scale or timelines. And there was a fair amount of concern from the board about how the decision was going to be made about what the future of the ministry is. And so I recommended that I check in with the COM, which is why Dave and Jude are here, to double check with them to see if they'd be interested in taking a task that would be about a 3-month task, suggesting that they interview some leaders in the church, talk to people at the UUA, talk to me, talk to the board, and sort of sort through some of the choices of questions about, you know, what are the needs that the leaders perceive? Are these needs that need a special, you know, task of a developmental minister, or are these things that can be worked on? Is the congregation going to be financially healthy enough to make a good package in the future? Anyway, so those are the kind of questions, and we thought the Committee on Ministry might be able to do that task, do that research, and then write back some summary report to the board. It would still be a board decision, but so that's what Dave and Jude are here. So I just wanted to lift that up in case anybody wanted to add to that, or if Dave has any questions for us now.
Do you want to go with questions now, or do you want to wait? I think this is one of the topics on the agenda. Do you want to delve more into this once we get to it? Or we can do it now?
If Jude and Dave want to hang around for the meeting, that's awesome.
What do you think, guys? Do you want to get into this right now, or do you want to wait until we get through these reports? I can go either way.
It's up, Jude?
Jude?
I'm fine to wait.
Okay. Yeah, let's get through these reports, and I think it's it comes up right away after this. Okay. Linda, anything else? Anything else that you need to address in your report? We good? Okie doke. Let me scroll down here. Alex is up next, and I want everyone to take note that this is Alex's last board meeting until she goes off on her sabbatical at the end of this month. So she will be off doing her thing, and then we'll welcome her back at the end of May, beginning of June. We'll see you then. Alex, anything you want to lift up or change about your report?
No, I just express great gratitude to all of you all. May the road rise up to meet you, and may you call on the sacred as you know it to give you strength for each step of the way.
All right, any questions for Alex? All righty, moving on then. Leah, anything you want to lift up or highlight in your report today?
Yes, my apologies for my report being late, and I hope that you will have a chance to read it if you have not already. The things that I will lift up are one, that the wreath making gathering is supposedly this Saturday, and we are watching the weather, and if the weather it does not cooperate, that will be moved to the following Saturday, the 12th. There are up to date, as we're going slowly with updating the holiday activities, because we are really paying attention to what's going on with the pandemic and wanting to be super duper safe. So we keep redirecting everybody to the website and only identifying the latest information as we get close enough to that event to know whether or not we're going to be able to go forward with it, or we'll need to postpone or cancel it. So those are the big things that I wanted to just make sure everybody is aware of.
All right. Thank you. Any questions or comments for Leah? All righty. Sean, you're up next. Anything you want to add or subtract from your report?
No, I just did want to point out that there are changes made to the COM guidelines for building use during a pandemic. Those are linked in my report. And the biggest thing is that we will start using head scanning thermometers to make sure that people do not have a fever before participating in group events, which will start with the holiday celebration this weekend. Going forward, any group activities will need to be using these scanners as well. So I will contact and train anybody who needs to know how to use them. But once again, the guidelines for who can and who can't participate, depending on the temperature and exactly what the temperature is, and the other like answering questions about symptoms, are all outlined in the updated COM report.
All right. Thank you. And thank you for keeping us safe and healthy. There's no bigger priority for the next few weeks, I think, as the case count goes up. Pam, question?
So I just want to say, Sean, I think it's incredible, all the stuff that you're doing. Every month when I read this report, I think, oh my goodness, is there anything he can't do or doesn't do? Thank you so much.
All righty. I think we all echo that. Yes. Every time I read about Sean doing plumbing, I'm just phenomenally jealous, because there's not a day that goes by that I don't have a water issue. So
Yeah, but he also lays concrete and can make a thing be plumb.
Right?
And rewires the electrical outlets and switches.
Sean, you're irreplaceable.
Yeah. And I wanted to lift up not only Sean, but I do think that you guys have a really wonderful team. I'm looking at, Leah, Alex, Sean. It's just, you guys are very, very fortunate, and it's a great team. I'm having so much fun working with these people. It's actually a pleasure working with them.
Absolutely. All right. Nothing but joy tonight. All right. Up next is the membership report. Christine Gresser, 359 members. I think that's the entirety of the membership report. And then board liaison reports. Liberty and Aksha, I just want to make sure everyone had a chance to read that. Liberty, I think you're on the agenda, so we'll just wait a couple minutes. Your moment is about to come up for anything that you want to add or change about that report. Once again, the Glen Short Sanctuary. I'm sorry, Elizabeth, did you have something?
I wanted to, since Aksha's not here, somebody pushed my hand up for the craft sale, and that was a lot of work for Aksha. I still have people sending things in, and then, so God bless Aksha, because it was detail, explode your head and drop your brain down on the ground and smash it a few times. So
Well, make sure you put that in the comments, and I'll get the thank you cards out. Leah, would you please ask Caroline to set aside some more thank you cards, because I'm just about out. If she could put them on Sun House porch or somewhere so that I can come find them. All right. The Glen Short Sanctuary Capital Endowment Fund. I'm sorry, Breck, did you have a comment?
Well, since it's stuck in here, can we talk a little bit about Sally moving to Brooklyn? That's massive.
That's massive. Yes. All right. The only thing that I want to lift up is they've got about $30,000 left in that fund. And Bev, you're taking Sally's place. Is that my understanding correct? Well, kind of, sort of taking Sally's place.
Nobody can take Sally's place, but I will be one of the people who can sign checks, because you have to get 3 signatures. And I go to, meetings and look at requests for money.
Sure. And do you feel like you still have enough projects that you're going to drain that last 30,000, or?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think so.
Okay. All right.
Oh, please run out of money and don't lock the basement door.
Don't
The
lock.
basement door, she wants the door locked to the history files, which is just the dumbest idea ever. Who's going to steal our history files?
I think Dick has put a bolt on the door.
Okay, I'm sorry.
All right. Any other questions for the Glen Short Fund? All righty, moving along. Music committee. Linda, do you know anything about music this month? Kelsey's not here.
It's in my report.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, and I just heard the latest, the December anthem, and they've done a beautiful job. So,
All
yeah.
right. And church closure task force, that was part of Sean's. New name, Elizabeth, I think you're on the agenda. Volunteer coordinator, that was also written. Nominating committee, Breck, can we kick that over to new business and let you talk about that then? Does that seem okay?
Absolutely. Mhm.
Absolutely. And personnel, Elizabeth, anything to share? No.
No, we're moving right along. A better report next month when we've done something.
All righty. That seems about right. All right. Any other questions or comments about all of those reports? That was a long list. All right. Otherwise, we're up to the consent agenda, and the only thing that we need to do is approve the draft minutes from last month. I motion that we approve them. Someone want a second?
Second.
All in favor? Raise up your hands, please. That looks unanimous to me. All righty.
Lori,
Yes.
you want to explain what we're going to be doing with the board minutes from now on, rather than approving them at the next board meeting?
All right. Beth, you want to take a second to talk about that?
Sure. We are going to have the minutes more as little bullets instead of the very meticulous notes that I've been doing. At the exec meeting, we had a discussion about how minutes don't have to be like, it doesn't have to be every word that people say. And that's kind of the way I've been doing it. And my predecessors had done it. So anyway, we are going to make the minutes more like bullets. And if you want to see notes, I'll have a Google Doc with notes that is just for us to look at. And then the minutes are going to be posted pretty quickly after the meeting instead of, waiting until the next board meeting. So we're going to have a vote, email vote. So I'll share the minutes very shortly after the meeting as a Google Doc, and then everyone has to vote that they accept them, and then we'll post them for the congregation.
Great.
Does that sound good to everyone?
That sounds lovely. Thank you so much for adapting. I hope this is less work and not more work for you, Beth.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of shocked at the way our board did minutes before,
Right.
where we wrote down every single thing that everyone said and we listened to recordings. So I think it would free up several hours of my time if I don't have to listen to the recording.
Yeah.
That would be lovely.
All right. Great. Jim has a comment, and then Linda.
It's a question.
Question.
Does
go ahead.
that, you say you'll have the bullet points available right after, and we'll take an email vote, and that's what will get posted. But you also have a Google Doc, and the Google Doc sounds like it'll be more expanded. So is that now going to just replicate what you've been doing, but on a Google Doc? And that's question one. And question two is, well, question 1A, is that really going to cut down the time you have to invest? And question two is that second longer document going to be made available to anybody who wants to by clicking on a link? If you know what I mean.
Well, I mean, I actually didn't talk about this before I just said it, but I actually am still writing down as people are talking. I am taking notes, but I think I don't know. I don't know what you guys think.
Okay.
Maybe we should talk about that really quickly, like 2 minutes. Should I share my notes with everyone, or are you guys sitting in your own offices taking down little notes and you don't need me to send you, what people are saying? This would be a document that would only be shared with us. It wouldn't be something that anyone else could get into.
Okay, so you wouldn't have to spend an enormous amount of time curating it and editing it and making sure it was just right.
No, it would
The
just
second,
literally
yeah,
be what
yeah.
I'm writing down as everyone's talking.
All right.
But maybe we don't need that. You guys can tell me to not do that.
All right. Linda, go ahead. What was your comment?
So my comment is about minutes. Minutes should not be the notes of the meeting. You could be doing the minutes right now and post them immediately. That's how I do
Yeah.
it when I'm a secretary of an organization. Minutes are who's in attendance, which matters were discussed, not the subject, not the content, but just this was discussed, what actions were taken. That's it. You don't summarize things, you don't make explanations, you just say, these people were present, we addressed these subjects, we took these actions. And then maybe you would do something like we deferred this to a future meeting, or, we agreed that this was going to be discussed next month or something like that. That kind of note. But literally that's what minutes are. And anything that beyond that, that's why you have to do this thing of editing and reviewing, because if the minute it reflects like, this is what they said and this is what we decided, like that. That's why, when you actually are at a meeting, that you have to be very careful, the wording of the motion, because that's the only thing that goes in the minutes is the wording of the motion. It has to be exactly right. Moved and passed, this is what we said. Because otherwise it's up to the secretary to be trying to track everything everybody says. And it doesn't work really well.
Well, why don't you go ahead and do it the way that you intended for tonight, Beth? And we can kick this over to the executive meeting. Let's take a look at what comes out of tonight's meeting. I know I rely on your minutes because I can't talk and take notes and listen all at the same time. I sort of rely on what you're doing. And to just have what happened as far as what we talked about and what we did, in some regards, that's enough. But I have to admit, I do like a little more meat on those bones. But I know that for the few months that I ended up as secretary, I hear what Linda's saying is you have to be so careful what you write. That's why motions are worded as carefully as they are. So go ahead and do it the way that you intended tonight. And let's kick this discussion over to executive to make a decision. And then if we still can't decide, we'll bring it back to the whole board. Does that seem okay, just to get through tonight's meeting? Just go ahead and do it the way that you planned. All right. But yes, you are the record keeper, Beth. And so we do rely, I know I rely on you to keep track of what's happening. All right, let's move on. The first thing under old business is the new name task force. And Elizabeth, this is your moment to shine. What do you know?
Right. So what we need from the board is to approve the charge. The timeline is the added information, but the charge is the new name task force will be made up of Sharon Nuts, Sachin Mehta, Debbie Norton, Haley Owens, Bonnie Hanson, and Elizabeth Breeden. The task force is charged with using an inclusive and democratic process for our congregation to choose a new name. Our new name is a link to our church's mission statement and covenant, and the process will be inclusive, inspiring, fun, and a way of moving forward and reforming ourselves as a congregation. Emphasis will be on a transparent process with many opportunities for input.
All right, that sounds great. Do you want us to vote on this, or that?
Indeed, since we were tasked with creating our own charge, yes, the board must vote on this.
All righty.
There'll be, the timeline is where you all can say, that's not going to work, or you should do it differently. That's not, you're just voting on the charge. The rest of it, I would love input if you have any.
All right. Any thoughts for Elizabeth about that? And talk a little bit about the timeline again. When is what happening?
Well, we thought January is the brainstorming. And then we narrow the brainstorming down to a manageable number of names for February to be discussion about the manageable number of names. And hopefully that discussion where people have a chance to only be talking about 6 names. We're hoping that what happens is it rises up as a single name, but we recognize we're Unitarians and we may need to vote on 1, 2, or 3 names as the democratic process.
Sure.
The brainstorming idea is not just to get names, it's for people to explain why they love a name and what they think of themselves as Unitarian Universalist. Who do we think we are? And to be aspirational in our name, not to you can take the fail-safe vanilla and call yourselves Unitarian Universalists of Charlottesville, but that's kind of a fail-safe choice. It's not making the attempt to have a conversation about who we think we are, which is exciting.
All right. Questions for Elizabeth? Alex?
That last thing that you said, Elizabeth, seemed a little bit like content of discussion instead of mission mission
We were hoping to have people to have these discussions, really talk about the heart of what it is to be a Unitarian Universalist. And so the goal of the discussions, of the January discussions, was not to achieve a naming, but to achieve a brainstorming, a chance to discuss. Because as we talked about what this leads us to do, because it's a question of defining ourselves, what it leads us to do is to hold among each other that very Unitarian Universalist conversation about who are we and is there anything which says this is who we are? And though we are lots of things, perhaps if we try to be aspirational in our naming, we could say who we hope to be. And the conversation is about who we hope to be after all.
All right. More questions or comments for Elizabeth? Go ahead, Liberty.
This is kind of going to relate to stuff I'm talking about, but I just wondered if you all have developed any kind of communication plan or like what your plan for outreach is, or if you've tagged that as a responsibility within your community, your committee.
So I think that our next meeting is about what are the leading questions that guide the conversation, of the 2 subjects that then guide everybody to have the same conversation. And I think that we thought that if we did cottage conversations, and the first communication will be all of the results, so that on the website there will be 40 names that were talked about, that were proposed. Then when those are narrowed down, and what we hope is that what happens in those conversations is you have a whole lot of ideas, but 1 or 2 rise in that small cottage conversation to be what people are led through the conversation to love just a few names, that those will rise. And then we thought we would have a weighted vote where you voted on your favorites with a weighting, so that the ones that everybody likes the most rise to the surface. Yes, Liberty, keep going.
Yeah, I'm not really talking about that as much, because to have the cottage conversations, you're going to need to do communication. Right.
Mhm.
You're going to have to ask people to attend, and people are going to want updates along the way. It's just coming off of the name change committee. I'm just kind of like FYI how it works. So I would definitely see who in your committee can be charged with writing the copy for that and sending it to the right people, because way before you get to the posting results, there's a lot of outreach that happens.
All right, Breck?
I just wonder if we could hear the charge again. I'm sorry, I'm kind of a visual person and I,
You
In
can
lieu of-
read it. You can read it. It's
Where is
in the
it?
report. It's in the
Here in
Google, it's in the
bottom of
Google Doc.
report. Go down to after the Glenn Short. It's right after the Glenn Short. Want me
Okay,
to read it
I will
again?
look for it. I will look for it there.
All right, can you, is there any chance, Elizabeth, if you have it right in front of you, can you stick it in the chat box, and then Beth can cut and paste it into her minutes, and then if you want to,
I can share the screen.
can you show the screen? Okay.
Oh, good. I was going to say, you just asked me for a technological marvel.
There it is. There it is.
All right. Take a look. All right. So does that look like your motion, Elizabeth? Do you want to?
Yes, that is my motion, is that's the charge that I'm proposing, is what we've been given to do.
All right. Does everyone want to take a minute to read that? And then Elizabeth, go ahead and make the motion. Someone will second it, and we can continue this discussion if there's more to say. Otherwise, we can go ahead and vote.
So I move that the charge for the new name task force is, the members are named, and then the task force is charged with using an inclusive and democratic process for our congregation to choose a new name. Our new name is a link to our church's mission statement and covenant, and the process will be inclusive, inspiring, fun, and a way of moving forward and reforming ourselves as a congregation. Emphasis will be on a transparent process with many opportunities for input.
All right. I'll second your motion and then comments. Breck, you're up first.
I think it is really great. I just think there could be a little clarity with the word using an inclusive process. I'm not clear yet if you guys are designing the process, or are you also facilitating the process?
Yes.
Doing both, okay.
All right. More comments, questions? All righty. If everyone is good with this mission statement, can I see a show of hands? All in favor, raise your hand. Anyone? Okay, put your hands down. I think that was everybody. That looks like unanimous. Was anyone abstaining? I didn't see anyone. All right, Beth, I believe that passes unanimously. All right, Elizabeth, go forth and change the name then. All right, next up, stewardship. Liberty, you have some ideas about communication and the pledge drive and the whole ball of wax. What do you know? You are muted, girl.
My mouse is slowing down, so to unmute myself, I have to slowly make it down. Okay, so I'm going to do a screen share of a little slideshow just to go through some of the ideas that we've been kicking around and explain some of our motivations, and we'll try to get through it. Mostly, I was informed that reading your slides is really tacky, but that's basically what I'm going to do, because that's how I organized my thoughts this time. So I'm going to share my screen, if you'll just bear with me with my slow mouse for a minute.
Welcome, Kelsey and baby.
Hey.
Welcome, Kelsey and baby.
Hi, I am so sorry.
We're happy to see you.
Visibly bigger.
Oh, did I block the baby?
Visibly bigger is the goal. We were just at an unusually long doctor's appointment.
All
So
right. Liberty, go ahead.
All right, outreach and connection in the time of COVID. That's what we're doing. All right, we're utilizing the communication channels to offer welcome in this time of all of the things going on. That is what we have to offer, is our welcome, because we know that being in a caring community is the most powerful thing that we can offer right now. And it's needed now more than ever. And so our committee is very motivated by this truth. Both Asha and I just say it all the time that we really get so much out of this congregation, and we would like to share the love and spread the love. And so that's what motivates us on the communication committee. Here we see this great graphic. Thanks to Jude for making this, and for the listening circles that got these words. I'm putting it up here because there's that word community. And that's what I heard when I was at the leadership retreat. I heard people talking about the people, and I heard about the connections, and that's reflecting here in the listening circles. And I just think that we're all on the same page about what it's really valuable and what is going to build towards a good fundraiser, a good pledge drive. The journey toward more connections involves taking a next step. And that's a premise that we're going to work with here. And here's the steps, right? Somebody comes in. I don't know the words, guys. I'm looking up. I've been reading a lot about church life. I know that dabbler probably isn't in the lingo of explaining a congregation, but that's what I'm using, right? So I understand it from my reading and from being part of the church, that people start out as a visitor and they come and they're looking, they get a little bit more involved, they check in occasionally, they become an RE family or a member, and they start really appreciating the church, and then they get to be an active member, and their interest becomes how to be more effective about being involved. And with greater connection comes greater benefit. So the more you're involved with the people, the more you get the benefit of being part of the church, which is the relationship and the community. So how do communication plans fit into this? Communication plans are the guideposts so that people can take these next steps from being a dabbler into a committed member. And these strategies, these guideposts, make opportunities accessible. And that also is one of our major motivations, is making sure that what we have available is not siloed and is not kept in a walled garden, even a virtual walled garden, but in fact, it's accessible to people who might not even know that we exist. So here's that graphic again, here's the steps. And the question is, how do people get from one step to the other? They use the guideposts. I don't know what these transitions are, folks. I'm sorry. There we go. There's our next steps. They get from one step to the other with our guideposts. And that's where the communication committee comes in. We facilitate the guideposts. The leadership, the church, the curriculum, the texts, the sermons are what people come for, but how they get there comes about through communications. And so here's another little way of seeing it. Someone comes from being a visitor to casual to an appreciator to more involved in membership. Again, I'm so sorry for not knowing the lingo better. More connection means more involvement means more connection opportunities. And again, the guides, next step guides get us there. And they work best when they're part of a planned strategy, and a strategy helps in confusion. Does this sound familiar? I'm looking for some information. Someone sent it in an email. It came as an attachment. I think it was listed in the newsletter. The video should be up on YouTube. It went out in a church-wide email. I think someone said it during the service on Sunday. I didn't see it on the website. I think it was just posted on Facebook. Anyone sound familiar? We do know that this is what the people in the congregation are saying when they can't find information they need. And it's usually information related to taking a next step. And it's our job as communicators to point the way toward meaningful connections. It helps to remember that this is an accessibility issue. And the way to end the confusion, it's provide a central hub for information. Ta-da! We have one. It's so great. We don't have to build it. We don't have to plan it. We don't have to buy it. We have a good functioning website. Thank you so much to the people before me who set this up. And I don't have to do that because starting from scratch is such a pain. So yay, our website, uucharlottesville.org. saying the name is important because people don't know it. And when we say go to our website, you're sending people to Google. And really, uucharlottesville.org is our virtual church. It's our online church. So that's the script. Go to uucharlottesville.org for more information. When we send people out inspiration, people will come back looking for information. So we send out newsletters and we send out sermons and we send out emails, and then people need information as a follow-up, and they get their information from our website. Here's a quick example of something Asha just put together after we spoke today. She really wanted to find a place where she could put all the Soulful Home content. And so she created this little blog page where she put each of the Soulful Home content pieces onto this site. All she had to do was label different posts as Soulful Home, and they automatically populate. This isn't a live version of the website, folks, so I can't really click on it, but these are screenshots, but you can see it here. And that was an easy thing to do with a little bit of imagination of all of this content should exist somewhere easily. And our website, WordPress, handles that really well. You just have to pick a bunch of posts in a theme, and we can populate any website, any page instantly with all of those themes. So this theme of these posts are Soulful Home. Yeah, here's again the script. You can find out about more ways to get involved on our website, uucharlottesville.org. Send them to the website. And then this is a guy, I've just been reading a lot about church media and church communications, and this man has a whole webinar on it. I watched some of his videos, and he says a static page on the internet will not contribute to a lasting life change, but a central location for taking steps in your journey will. And so, you know, I think we should just hold that with a little bit of seriousness, that really we're not creating a yellow pages, we're creating a hub for our spiritual and community messaging. How does this relate back to the pledge drive? Ooh. Better guideposts will lead to more connections. Connected members are the most likely to pledge. Love these little drop-in graphics that slides give you. Pledge drive success means sustainable finances. That means more opportunities for connection, better staff, facilities, and programming. And with that, we get more engaged community, fulfillment of our mission, and impact on people's lives. And hopefully that's the cycle, right? Isn't this what sustainability looks like? That when we have really engaged community, they are willing to pay for it, and it feeds back into more opportunities and engaged community. Of course, along the way, you know, what we're saying is the communication steps in with pointing people towards those opportunities. Quickly, just what do we have working for us? We have such a vibrant, really robust media resources. We have great emails that go out, great participation. We have really high quality. We switched from Constant Contact to MailChimp. It was a great move. WordPress is a great platform for our website. We have active writers on staff who are putting their reflections and their personal thoughts out there. We have video resources. We have recorded audio. We have a tremendous amount of media and content that comes out of our organization. But all of these things are not on our hub. All of these things are sort of saying little bits and pieces. I don't even have social media on here. These things are saying little bits and pieces of our story, but there's nowhere where you can find the whole story. And so our communication plan to support the pledge drive is going to start with uucharlottesville.org. And our plan is to work on the website as a central hub for next steps, so that when we're sending people to the website, they're going to be able to easily find out how to sign up for something, who to contact to get involved with something, and what other things that are similar to their interests they can find. We're going to use best practices for our newsletter outreach, including refining the design and the content. And our focus is on inspiration. We send out the inspiration, people come back looking for information. And we'd like to bring the content from the sermons and YouTube and the emails all onto the website. We'd like to offer training sessions for church leaders to inspire content sharing practices. We want to create communication plan flowcharts for sharing these options. And we want to work with the congregation creatives to share their work. So it's really something that everyone at their level can tap into. We're going to keep meeting with this committee. We have not had a really functioning communication committee, we've have these new meetings on the agenda, and it went really well. We had our first meeting today. Sean came. It was so helpful. We learned so much, and it's just kind of amazing that we've been hobbling along without this, because it was like we couldn't even stop in an hour. We had so much to cover. Integrating Breeze into WordPress to track the next step engagement is actually really cool and really crucial. This is going to tell us how people are interacting with our content, and this is going to give us data, and it's going to tell us how successful our programs are as far as, you know, people taking these next steps. It's also going to tell us who's involved with these things. We're going to have, you know, records. This our hub can record and get feedback to us information, and that's just really advanced. And so having Breeze be part of our toolkit is just great, and it's going to help going into stewardship, because we're going to have a really good idea of where people are engaged with our content, with our resources, and with our community. And so we have a lot of room for growth there. And I will just say that we just are doing this with so much gratitude for the work that goes into this community, and for all the resources that have been nourished for 75 years to make this even a possibility to grow and shine and put that out into the world.
Wow, that was absolutely amazing. That was so much information. I had no idea that we're just so amazing. We have you to thank for lifting it up. Jim, I see your hand up. Go ahead.
Just the timekeeper. We have 2 minutes left in this category, although we shaved time off the previous category, so we could probably extend it.
Okay, thank you so much.
Did I go over?
We took 13 minutes out of 15.
Yeah, we've got plenty of time. All right, questions or comments for Liberty? That was an amazing presentation. Alex.
I think everything you said is true and powerful and full of potential and excitement. And I would like to expand a little bit of an understanding about that graphic with the XY axis with benefit increases as connection increases. I would say that is generally and often true, but I'd like to also just lift up that there are some people who only come once to this congregation, and the service saves them from a terrible moment in their life, or lifts them up so they can keep on going in their life. Or there are people who are no longer able to be connected in most ways, but somehow get some benefit. And so I guess I'd like to just lift up that the XY axis is a general truth, and there are other benefits that people get.
You know, I did think about that, and I kind of deferred to just simplicity of communications. And I really came up with the fact that the person who goes to that sermon, they took a step. And so it still applies, you know, their benefit increased because they were at 0. And I tried to make that not at 0, right? It's at like a little notch above, but thank you, because I have been that person. And so I really do appreciate that I benefited without having to be a long-term or even member at all.
Sean, I see your hand up.
I just wanted to say thank you to Liberty and Aksha for doing this, especially Liberty, who brought really raised the game as far as a level of professionalism and design quality with this email and the whole concept of the kind of pre-branding to the name change communications thing. So thank you very much, Liberty.
Leah.
I want to just offer my thanks as well, Liberty. I'm so excited by your presentation and look forward to collaborating more and figuring out how to keep going with what you have started. I think it's something that we've been trying to do for a long time, that whole sense of bringing people back to the website, but now it really feels like we've got the wherewithal to be able to do it. So I'm just super excited. So thank you to you and Aksha for sure.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Jim, I see your hand up.
Yeah, and I want to also extend my congratulations for that. I think that you called it a hub, and it's not so far reach to go from hub to home. And I think that especially in this time of the pandemic, having a home online is what we all are looking for. And so I just think that's a great image and a message that it's really the home to go to when you want to go and find something. You're going to go home for that, and that's the hub. Not to muddy the water with too many terms. But,
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
So Liberty, you set the bar really high. You've got a lot of great ideas. And I saw a little piece in your report about how you're looking to recruit more people for the communications committee. Is that right? And how's that going?
It's going slowly. Just really, I've been overwhelmed between this and the newsletter, like, and Thanksgiving. 'Cause
Right.
we did, have a nice break. My plate's been full. Recruiting is going to not just be, and that's what the amazing thing about the technology we have, and something I really want to address about this sounds not a capital T trauma, but I've been building websites since I was 19 in the late 90s, early. And so I know it used to be, and I learned it because I like being an insider. Like, I was like, what is that? I want to learn how to do that. So I've been in the place of being a person who I wasn't a hoarder, but I saw around me, people hoard information and they hoard access to technology. And it used to be that you'd have to have the webmaster and the website guy and the person log in, and they'd have to do the thing, and then it maybe would appear or maybe wouldn't. And for that, you'd need to recruit specialists. The way that the technology works now, it's like Facebook. Like, you don't have to have a special person post to Facebook. I mean, on a group you do. But when you have an account, you can post. And so a lot of this is going to be recruiting all of us to use the technology we have in the much more organic and much more fluid and much more open way, which is people need to see this, post it, send it in the email is posting, putting it on a Google Doc is posting, putting a post on our website is posting. It's a copy and paste and hit the button job. And so recruiting is going to be a lot about just empowering everyone that, those old days of people hoarding the knowledge and it being kind of a wall between it is changed. And, we have this interactive technology now.
Sure.
We're trying. Yeah. I would love to, if anyone has skills and interest, send them our way.
Well, of course, you've got a big problem because I have a great interest, but I don't know where the technology won't get away from us if I encourage people to use the website as a chat room for the new name.
No, that's not what we're saying. So, here's one of the things you'll see in the report is that we made the shortcut. It's uucharlottesville.org/post. Anyone who wants to send us something can go to that website, that address, and then we'll get a notification that someone has submitted a post. So unless you're a logged in member, staff person who's been given permission, everyone else's posts would be vetted. And in fact, you probably want that just to make sure the formatting is right. If you're nervous about it at all, anyone can use that. But we will get a notification. So if somebody wants to write a big thing about the name and they send it to us and say, hey, publish this, we'll get to look at it and we could run it by you or run it by leadership and say, hey, is this appropriate to be on our website? So everything right now has the chance to be vetted, but kind of that would be amazing. I doubt that's going to happen. I mean, there are people who want to write and get their opinion across. I encourage more of that. And so again, that's also going to go into a separate, that won't necessarily appear on our homepage. It will go to the separate page, which is like the member corner that we're writing, that we've created so that people can post their own, or submit their own reflections, or else it can go to a name discussion or name update page, right? We could create a page on the website that's called new name. And then anything that you post will get filed over to there and you could put your updates and they can put their updates. I'm sorry, did that answer the question? It's not going to be a free for all. I mean, you have to watch Facebook for that. That's not going to.
Great.
So I sort of have a second question, but I get lost in it. For me, when you did the engagement versus benefit, engagement is such a, and here's where I become an old lady, that for me, with all of the accessibility of information, people dip in, but they don't get engaged. They find out things better, and the communication is better for them to ask who and what we are and how they want to be involved. But that doesn't mean that they're that their heart and soul are there wanting to be a piece of the community. It means they're observers. They're good observers. And that for me, whenever I go out looking for who's engaged in the particular actions of the church, especially out in the community, everybody's playing their own tune and we're not engaged with each other about how we stand in the community.
Yeah, there's so many different versions of being on that path. I mean, that's, you know, I know there are much more educated and experienced people who could talk about the journey of membership and the journey of church life. I will say this, that for any point you're on, there's a step. And so if we're not reaching or informing them about the step, you know, that's kind of my area. So I could say that person is not engaged, but is it because the program isn't offered that they want, or do they really not know? Because we bury a lot. They really might not know.
Linda, do I see your hand up? Let's go Linda and then Beth.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on that. I think that a great communication strategy still doesn't replace the one-on-one personal engagement where people actually spend time asking how you're doing, you know, like showing up to help wash up the dishes and talking. And that's what really helps people get glued in. But I think what Liberty is trying to say is when it's so opaque, when you can't really see what's going on, a person that wants to come in and engage interrelationally, personally, can't even figure out where to show up, when and why, because it's hard to figure it out. It's hard to know that when you're in the system because you sort of understand how we communicate. But for a person that's looking at it and wanting to come into the building, it's kind of like if you didn't have a signpost to say this is Rugby Road and this is the parking lot, this is the front door. If you didn't have the signpost, people could never get in. And I think a great communication strategy makes it easier for people who don't know their way around yet to find out where the people are, what they're doing. And then the way they get really connected is with that interpersonal relationship. But they have to know even how to get into the building, metaphorically speaking.
And I think it's useful for all of us to think, and I know it's changed the way I've thought a little bit about, you know, as people are participating in the thing that they like, that we have to show them what to do next. And a lot of the things that we do are like, okay, you enjoyed it, here it is. And there's not always a next step offered. And right now, the next step is going to be to send people to our website. And it doesn't always feel right to me in the church atmosphere, but I feel like in the time of COVID and really the seriousness of what we're doing, I think that we should, you know, really put our information on the website. And then after a talk, after a sermon, whatever it is, you know, there's more of this. We're going to have more of this. I encourage you all to go to uucharlottesville.org and see what some of the other things that we have offered and make that invitation, because then people will seek out the information. If we provide the inspiration with the great event, they will seek it out, and especially if we invite them. So next step as a concept, I think should be a part of our programming and our like relationships, inviting people, and we have 3 months. I mean, for me right now, I'm just in this like deadline of like, who can we really get close, so then when we ask them for money, they're not going to say like, who are you?
All right, let's go Beth and then Jim.
No, I think you and Rev Linda just you just answered my question. My question was, how would I define a guidepost? But I think it's really just, while people are dabbling, it's our job, no matter how we do it, whether we're in person or whether we're virtual, to show people what to do next. That's what we're talking about when you are referring to guideposts.
Yeah, it is. It's making our communications really clear so that they know what to do next. And right now, I'm just trusting that we have a really robust system. And if we all put the content out there, put the charge for the name change, it needs to go up on the website. You know, that's a crucial part of a detail, and people want to know what it is. Maybe not the charge, but like, you know, the timeline at least. So anytime we're doing a thing, thinking about feeding it back to our home, to our hub, so that we can use that as the next step, which is go check out the website, go to uucharlottesville.org. But we have to say that with the confidence that we're sitting them somewhere like legitimate, full of details.
Let's go to Jim.
Yeah, so I'm hearing a lot of great goals for this, and but I see a potential challenge, which is how to manage, on the one hand, accessibility and simplicity for those that don't know the church so well, don't know UU Charlottesville very well, but want to learn more, with being comprehensive. Because, you know, many websites that we've all been to look very cluttered with a lot of stuff on it. And that's a real turnoff for people that are trying to learn about UU Charlottesville, just want to find out something. So that's a real challenge. I don't know how that's done, but to have it both comprehensive as you dig deeper, but also simple when you first get there, right? I guess is that what the hub is going to be able to do?
Yeah, church marketing, as I've learned, is actually really tricky for that, because you have a lot of different audiences you're serving. Once you break it down, you are serving, you know, older people who are new to your congregation, older people who are mature in your congregation, young people who are new, young people who are like longtime members. And so you can have different levels of knowledge and different demographics. I just went with young and old. There's a whole, you know, middle-aged parents who have their own needs. And so you're serving a lot of different needs from a lot of different age graphics. And I guess that's what church life is like. Y'all are like, wow, you just, okay, I'm new. So yeah, it's a lot. There are a lot of people's needs to be met, and it's a challenge. And sometimes you have to prune it down and say who your main audience is. When you're on a campaign mode and you're in a short-term mode, you really have to think about who you're speaking to. And so as we go into stewardship, getting that data is going to be really important. And because I do think that the way that you reach, you know, a busy, you know, 30-year-old mom is different than the way you reach a retired person or a student. And so we do have to think about what our goals are and who we're speaking to. And it's a lot. Y'all serve a lot of people.
All right, let's get one last comment from Breck, and then let's move on to the last topic. We still want to hear from Dave and Jude about moving ahead with from the COM and the men's search. So one last comment from Breck, and then we're going to move on to the next thing. Breck, go ahead.
Thanks, Liberty. I thought this was a really powerful presentation and very thought-provoking. The one thing that occurs to me as you described it, I'm really taken with this idea of the guideposts, and it made me think of certain kinds of activities and events or things that we do as a church that actually are like more effective at being those guideposts than others, such as like dining circles, you know, was one way that my wife and I moved from being a casual visitor to being more, you know, aware. Covenant groups are extremely powerful for people and seem like raising their level of engagement. And I just wonder if as you're thinking about both the communication strategy, the digital media, pairing that with really effective in-person things that have happened, and either thinking about ways that can be reflected in digital media, or lifting up things that we can't do right now, but we will do again. And there's maybe some push and pull with those that can it's just help. The whole framework that you've laid out helps us think about our role as a community, what we can do to facilitate that on so many different levels. So thank you.
I think the holiday programming is a great example of that. I mean, you know, people would love to meet in person. We love Christmas at our church. We love the craft fair. We love the nativity, and we can't do it. And so, I mean, the virtual version of it and the acknowledging that there's a loss, and that, I mean, that's all we can do right now. And I think anytime, I would love to see this kind of plan extend, because especially with the covenant groups, I will say I have struggled over the years, and not just in this church, in other churches too. Like the covenant groups always were like the locked garden, like the clubs that you just couldn't get into. I could never figure them out, and it took a lot of work. I know when I work hard at something that I'm a striver and I'm kind of a digger. And so I know when I'm striving, there are a lot of people who don't have the energy or the resources to do what I did to get in the door. And so I would love to see something like that personal covenant group get more accessibility through communications eventually. But in the meantime, I mean, we've just got to let people know they can celebrate the holidays safely, and just keep the facts up there relevant, and just keep people sustained. And I want to go back real quickly to that idea of inspiration. I really want when people to open up their emails, or when they open up a web post, or they open up content from us, that they have a full experience of our offering. And if we want them to feel calm, I would like them to have a calm experience. If we want them to feel excited, I would like them to have an excited experience. But that comes through communication. And so I just want to put that out there, that fundamentally, I really want to offer that, the guideposts to come from that place of like, this is right, this feels good, this is answering my need.
All right. Well, thank you, Liberty. That was, I think I speak for everyone. That was a great presentation. That really gives us a lot to look forward to. And I think putting this in play, we've got a lot of big stuff coming up, the name change, the ministerial search, the pledge drive, and the communication committee is going to be key to all this, especially now since everything is virtual. We are going to depend on you more and more. So thank you so much for everything that you've done. This has just been great. All right, the last thing, and I apologize to Dave and Jude. Thank you so much for sitting through this meeting. The board being in relationship with the congregation is the final thing on under old business. And the executive committee is going to have to correct me if I'm mistaken, but I think this is where we talked about sort of really laying out our future and looking at a timeline and what is coming up and sort of figuring out what comes next. And one of the things that we really wanted to talk about was where to go with our ministry. Linda, is this sounding familiar to you? That we definitely need to get some feedback about sticking with an interim, going with the developmental, starting a min search. Beth, does this sound familiar to you? I see your hand up. You are muted.
Well, yeah, as I remember from exec, this statement was really just to talk about how the board was going to do relational, like actual action items with the congregation. Like someone like me may decide to write, I don't know, I'm just going to throw it out there, 50 Christmas cards or something, I don't know, or holiday cards. But we were going to try to figure out what the board could do to be in relationship. That's what I thought this was about. I hate to say it, but I don't really have, other than the COM report, I don't have that on the agenda, but since we pushed Jude and David so long, we should have them.
It's one of the bullets underneath the stewardship report. That it's one of the ways the stewardship, the board can be helpful in stewardship, which is finding ways to be in relationship with people, reaching out, talking to them. And we don't need to talk about that now.
Yes.
We can bring that back, yeah.
Okay, but we do want Jude and
I didn't know how much
David
time
to talk.
Yeah, and I don't know how much time to set for that category, so I'm glad we're moving on.
All right, so I guess we'll just put the ministerial search discussion. And I don't know how much time we want to give to it. It's 5 minutes till 8.
Well, this is just something that was in my report and I wanted to lift it up. And I had said to the exec that I would have talked to the COM before this meeting so that you would have a sense. If you remember from the second day of the retreat, you all got very interested in the question of how do we decide what we're going to do in March or April. If we're going to offer Linda a contract for a second interim year, if we're going to go form a search committee for a settled minister in a year, if we're going to decide, no, we need to get a leadership, a developmental minister, how does the board make that decision? And one of the thoughts was we could ask the Committee on Ministry, that group of people to research, to have conversations with us, with Keith Cron at the UUA. And my suggestion to the COM would also then be to, brainstorm 50 leaders in the church that should be talked with and ask some questions. That was just my idea. And then come back to the board and say, we think it's looking like there's so many things broken. You guys need 6 years of developmental minister. Or they would say, we think everything's going fine and you should go ahead and organize a search committee to call a minister in a year. Whatever they recommend. Not that's you would then get to decide what to do. And that's the question is the COM interested? And it would be like a 3-month task basically. You know, they're going to meet December and they can decide if they want to do it. And they would bring a report to you by your March meeting, March 24th meeting. I think that's what we had talked about, with the need of having somebody else besides the board or me figure out where's the congregation. And by, you know, and I think the only thing that they could do the more is bring together other people's viewpoints, because I'm, you know.
Yes, we need that. That's it exactly. We need the COM by a deadline to bring us information about our next step in ministry. Number one, Linda for another year and hire a minister a year from now.
Well,
number two, developmental minister, because we actually have questions that need resolving from a developmental minister. And we could decide it in March because a developmental minister only takes 3 months to call, whereas a permanent minister takes a year to call. So
right.
that's
And
why
so either way, you'd be deciding at that point, right? Right. So anyway, I wrote out a charge. I'm not a charge. I wrote out a suggested set of tasks for Dave to share with the committee. And Lori has seen it, but I didn't know that we were going to actually deal with that tonight. But I think for Jude and Dave being here is maybe they might want to ask a question of the board, because all they've heard is what I remember from our conversation, why we thought that the COM would be a good group to ask to do this task. So Lori said she's lost her connection, so somebody else is going to have to run the meeting.
Oh, that would be me, I guess.
Uh-huh.
All right, so do we want Dave and Jude to first respond as COM to whether this sounds like a task they can do?
Yeah, because well, David especially because he saw my email about it. We talked today and summarized it.
Can Sean, can you give me a shareable screen access?
You got it.
So this is the, Linda and I had a conversation today at lunch, and this was a kind of a breakdown of what she was kind of suggesting that she and y'all thought would be helpful for the COM to do. And so I was just, wanting to hear from all of y'all what you thought were the key things that you wanted to know, Keith, just trying to get a more flesh on this skeleton of an idea so that myself and Jude can then bring it to the rest of the COM, and we can try to come up with a plan of how best to help y'all and help the church. Does that make sense?
Can people read that email? It's a little small, but I'm suggesting the interview questions, and I'm suggesting what a report back to you would say, which is, oops, it's gone. Where'd it go?
There it is. I made it a little bigger.
I'm not seeing it. It's disappeared, Dave.
From everyone?
Yeah, it's back into its folder.
You got it. You got to open it up again.
Hold on.
I was just going to read the three points at the end. It was the part of what we want COM to be able to tell us, which is, and
hold on, let me new share.
what I was saying is the three things I think the board needs to hear is, with the congregation benefit from another year of interim? Because, you may not, you may say, no, we need developmental work. The second question, should the congregation hire a developmental minister? If so, which skills are needed? And the third question, would the congregation be ready to put together an attractive package and go into search 2021 to 2022 for a settled minister? And those are the kind of things that I think that we would need to get some real honest, insightful answers assembled.
And if we do, take this on, we would want some input from many different people as to who the 40 or 50 people that we contact to get their insight on from.
I mean, one of the key questions I have personally, and this is why it's kind of the time sensitivity of it, is the number 4 question. Does the congregation have the capacity to double its giving within 2 years? That's what it kind of comes down to. I mean, am I right, Stan? Am I wrong, Stan?
Well, I don't think we need to necessarily double it, but yeah, it does have to go up significantly. In order to offer an attractive package, we probably ought to increase by at least 50%. And yeah, that's the real question. I think we've got the capacity to, whether we have the will to is the real question, whether we can talk people into it. Brett?
I mean, I think there'd be a big benefit with having COM wrestle with this question. I guess the thing that I would just offer and like to try to find a solution for is that, the current board with almost everybody here, with the exception of Jim, wrestled with this for months last year. And there was a tremendous amount of education that was necessary to really even understand the different options. And I worry that, or I want to take advantage of the knowledge that was gained in going through that process. I don't think it's going to be that helpful to have COM go through 3 months and end up kind of where we are, where the rest of us have on that same journey. It'd be good to have more people on that journey, but I also don't want them to have to duplicate some of that education process.
Well, what do you think you don't know then? What is the new question that you don't understand? Why couldn't you have answered the question 2 weeks ago based on what you already know?
I think the board has a lot of the information that we need to make those decisions. I think it's helpful to have a different set of voices in that discussion and conversation. But I think for many of us, I'm interested in hearing the other opinions, but I think we have discussed it so at length that we have a lot of the information that we need.
Liberty?
I wonder, I mean, because I agree with Breck. I remember how we came to the understanding, and it seemed like each meeting we dug a little bit further and we had more questions, and then we finally were all like, oh, I get it. And I wonder if we can synthesize that some way for them. Like maybe we could have especially Pam, of course, but I mean, a little session of like filling them in. Do you think that they don't have to go through the same long journey we went through, but maybe we could synthesize it for them?
The question isn't, I don't think we want the Committee on Ministry to make the decision. We want them to hear what other people think, I think. Because I thought you guys said, because in the past it's been between the board and me of whether or not I stay or whether or not they're ready to do a search. And you guys, I thought, said you didn't want it to be between you and me. I thought you said you wanted to have more of a study of this. And maybe I'm wrong.
I was surprised that you came up with, oh, you need to decide whether you want me or a developmental minister. And the choice is that you have burning questions that haven't been answered yet. And so a developmental minister would be hired for those burning questions. And everything in me goes, I don't understand how change is helpful here. We're on a journey with you in which part of the journey is to be able to call a settled minister, and that takes another year. And that seems about right, that we've just been ticking through your list of goals with us.
My goals are interim goals, but part of the interim work will be when we discover something that is so broken that you guys say, oh my God, this is a goal of ours, that's when you get a developmental minister to work on a specific rebuilding goal. But if you discern things are going well, it's looking like we're putting it back together, then yeah, another year of interim and you call a settled minister. But I thought, and maybe I was at the wrong meeting, maybe I was not at the same meeting. I thought you all said you didn't think you were going to be able to make that decision in March and that you needed help, which is why I reached out to Dave, because was I at a different meeting than you all were?
Let's go Stan and then Breck.
I don't think necessarily you were at a different meeting. I think that there were different emphases. First of all, one of the things that in my mind, obviously from my position, is a huge factor is how well the pledge drive goes. But the other thing I think that may be the factor that will push us one way or the other is how well we're doing in terms of the reconciliation aspect of things. COVID has basically put a stop to any of the reconciliation work that we may have been trying to do before that, given what had gone on the past few years. And I don't know where we are on that, whether that is something that is basically just worn off and gone away, or if it's still.
Did you not read my report, Stan?
I did, and I think that's going to have. I think that our decision is going to be based more on what happens with that over the next couple of months, is what I'm saying.
All right, Breck, go ahead.
I would just note that, for a long time, we thought we were going to be heading towards a developmental minister. And one of the things that I think swayed us is that we just determined after reading all of the literature and the application and the need to really be more definitive in what we would be working on required a broader process with the congregation. And so I think that's the part that we would need more help on, is that we're probably fine with making the decision of the direction, but we need, as part of that, we need to have a broader consensus of what we're working towards. And we're not making that decision tonight, but as we move forward, bringing the COM on could help us have a different lens to look at that question, and could start the process of whether it's a second year of interim ministry, an application for a developmental minister, or starting to build a package towards a settled minister. That all involves a broader congregational input and engagement.
Okay. Pam?
So I feel pretty strongly that for the first time in many years, I feel really like we're getting grounded and we're having a really good and comprehensive feel to the whole congregation. But I feel like we've just started this. And I don't feel like we are ready to even say, this is the piece we can work on with a developmental minister. I feel like we are baby steps into this, and especially with COVID. And I think we've built kind of a good feeling here. I feel people are relaxed, they're trusting, they're getting enthusiastic. I would very, very much like to continue with the interim ministry for another year, get COVID behind us, God hope, and get even further grounded. And then if questions come up that we haven't been able to solve, then developmental minister. If not, we go settled minister. But I don't think we can make that decision in the next few months. I don't think we're ready. I love the idea of the COM talking with the congregation and kind of getting a feel for where we are. But I'd be stunned if we got information that would make me say, yeah, like, let's move to a developmental or a settled minister. I can't imagine that that's happening.
Okay. Jim, go ahead.
I thought what Pam said was great, because I was under the impression it was a binary decision. In other words, another year of interim, then to a settled, or we go to a developmental minister. But which put a lot of pressure on the next 3 months at a time when we have holidays and the COM has to get up to speed and have those things. And then it's a very time pressured decision to make. And I, am happy to hear that it sounds like we could possibly, if it all worked out, have another year of interim, then decide in that year if we want to have a developmental minister. Because I was not privy to, as Breck pointed out, all the conversations and understandings you've had about developmental ministry, but what little I do know tells me we have a lot of things to fix. And I think we might need a developmental minister, but I don't know that we can make that decision in the next 3 months. The two salient points you brought up, which was finances and healing, those two things are big. And if it doesn't feel like we can solve that in a year to then get a settled minister. I'm just saying.
So it seems like what I'm hearing is most people are leaning or strongly leaning toward inviting Linda to stay for another year. The question that I think is on the table is, do we want to ask the COM to sort of confirm that sentiment with the congregation? Or do we feel like as a board, we can go ahead and make that request now without having the COM do what sounds like a great deal of work? I'm happy to get a broader consensus, but like Pam said, if we're just going to send the COM out there to do all this work, but it's going to take a real change of heart to see things differently. I don't want the COM to do a whole lot of work if we all feel like we want to stick with a second year of Linda as our interim. What do you all think? Linda?
I want to point out that the third
Yeah.
question is, if you don't form a settled minister search committee this spring, you will not be calling a settled minister in 2022.
Okay.
You won't be, because it takes
Takes that long.
takes 15 months. So
Okay.
if you don't form a search committee this spring, you have already, by that, you've made the decision that you're going to be going, it'll require at least a third year before
Right.
you can have a settled minister.
Okay. So at that point, we would be, again, a third year of interim, or we'd be looking at a developmental at that point. Is that correct?
Right. You just won't be able to call a new settled minister
Right.
if you don't form a search committee this spring. And so that's part of what I think the struggle is not struggle, the discernment. And
Yeah.
I picked up from our second session that you all didn't feel like you were equipped to say you could discern without getting more information.
Okay. Kelsey?
If we were choosing to go with another year of interim and then a developmental, we would still have to form a search committee for a developmental at about the same time, right? Isn't it?
No, developmental doesn't take as long to search.
Really? Okay.
It's Pam knows more about this because she just had gone through this with Keith Cron, but he needs a little more lead time with a developmental search than he does for an interim. Am I right, Pam?
Oh, so we'd need to have a search committee earlier.
A little earlier than an interim. The interim committee got formed what, in
I agree.
March, right? March or April, but a developmental, he does that a little earlier, right?
I would have to look up and check on that. I was under the impression it was pretty much the same, but I need to check it.
Right, it's pretty much the same. Those are short turnarounds. It's for the settled minister that it takes 15 to 18 months.
All right. Breck and then Jim.
Linda, one of the things that we learned in the process was that even though, it is shorter, there's still work that needs to happen with the congregation. So in my mind, even if we wanted to have a developmental minister in the fall of 2022. We need to be talking with the congregation this fall or this summer and fall about what that developmental minister's goals would be.
Well, that's
And-
one of the questions I thought the COM, if things seem broken, people need to say what they think is broken. And that
Right.
would give us an idea. Now, if you're saying we put it off a year, yeah, then they don't have to do it this spring, this winter, spring.
Jim and then Elizabeth. Go ahead, Jim.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Breck had more to say.
Breck, I'm sorry, Breck, were you done?
Well, I just remember distinctly being in November of last year and wishing that we had started the work in the spring. I feel like we're going to have to make a decision this spring about our direction either way.
All right, thank you. Jim and then Elizabeth.
2 points. One is that we're at 8:20. I have no idea how long this communication part is supposed to, this part about this discussion is supposed to take, but I just want to point that out. And that's my role, taking that hat off. And yeah, it does feel like it's sort of I mean, the whole time frame is dawning on me. And as we're sitting here discussing it, in fact, as my last comment, as soon as I hit mute again, I was like, yeah, but that means, I thought to myself, that means we really have to make a decision about where we're going, because by default, if we don't decide it, we're going to be pushing everything off a year. And so it does behoove us to make the decision. That said, if we have the COM involved, we want to really define what the COM is there for. And and I think that it feels like what the COM is there for is, and maybe this isn't true, but is the COM there to decide what the role of the developmental minister would be, or is it decide whether we want to have a developmental minister, and then we'll figure it out?
No, the COM's not going to make a decision. The COM is going to be a fact-finding mission.
Yeah,
Right.
I think the COM is going to collect the information and bring it to the board, and then the board will make the decision.
Yeah, I misspoke, but is the COM there to fact find about what the issues are, or rather to fact find about whether to go for a developmental minister? And maybe those are tied together, so it's not easy to dissect those apart. So,
All right, Elizabeth, then Liberty.
So I think you've given the COM too big a job. I don't think the question has anything to do with what kind of minister do we want next. I think the question is, are we doing our job of reconciliation? If we're doing our job of reconciliation, then we're rolling along. If, however, we're not doing our job of reconciliation, then a developmental minister's got a job. But I think it's too much to ask the COM to do both things, because it confuses what's the question. And I think
That's making the assumption that reconciliation is the only problem you're facing. And I don't think that's the truth, Elizabeth. You made an assumption, and I thought the idea was the COM was going to listen to different people. Now, if it turns out 48 people say yeah, it could be the 48 of the 50 leaders they talk to will all say it's reconciliation.
All right, let's
In
go
which case,
Liberty, then Pam. Liberty.
Yeah, one of the things I remember when we first were really gung-ho about getting a developmental minister, we thought, okay, we have problems, somebody will fix us, they're developmental. And then we learned that we weren't ready for a developmental minister because we needed an interim to help us find out what the issues were. And then they would make a recommendation. And so I wonder, like, Linda, how far along and observing us are you as far as making that recommendation? Do you feel like you would? Do you know now if you would say settled or developmental? And do you feel like you have a honing in on what the developmental would work with us on?
No, I usually don't make a recommendation this early. And in fact, my style of interim ministry would not be to diagnose you, but rather to have you diagnose yourself. I see myself as listening to you and getting you to understand where you feel broken, where you feel like you need help. And then I'm going to either coach you or recommend I refer you to a heart specialist, but I need you to tell me what are the symptoms that are bothering me the most. I will in fact hold up my mirror and tell you, this looks cracked to me. Does it look cracked to you? But that doesn't mean I'm going to tell you now you need to go to this specialist or that specialist. And I know that makes it harder work for you, but the truth of interim ministry is the hard work has to be done by you.
Okay.
Which is why I like it. This is why I like it better than developmental ministry.
Pam, go ahead.
Well, what Liberty said was similar to what I was going to ask, which is that I'm not even sure I have in my head a list of things that we might be thinking are sort of, better word, broken or need extra work, or sort of the fundamental pillars of our community and organization are wobbly or non-existent. I'm not even sure we know that. I thought, maybe Linda, you talked to so many different people when you first came here, and I thought maybe we got a feel for that a little bit. I still think we are such baby steps towards that.
All right. Breck, and then Leah.
Yeah, and I think we're trying to do so much right now. We've got the name change discussion that's going to be going on. We're really putting a tremendous amount of energy into communications, into this pledge drive. And I think that Linda's helping us do important work on reconciliation in small groups. I think having another initiative that's trying to probe around the issues of what's broken is a really hard. It seems like it's going to end up running into the other kinds of communications and messages that we're trying to tell about ourselves, say about ourselves. I don't know if that means we're papering over things, but it just seems like those are really discordant efforts.
That's a really good point. Leah?
I think in reflecting back to what I've been hearing you say in this conversation is a desire to really encourage you to trust yourselves and to not feel like you necessarily need to go out and get a lot of other opinions or ideas or feedback, but to really trust yourselves as board members and what you're experiencing in the life of the congregation and the circles of relationship that you have within the congregation, and to use that wisdom and the wisdom that you all have to go forward with making decisions that seem right and true to you.
All right.
I could really, I think what Breck just said had a lot of, I could really connect with what he was saying.
All right. Let's just have a show of hands. How many people, put up your hand, how many people are leaning toward asking Linda to stay a second year? How many board members are leaning toward, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I see everyone. Okay, well, that was easy. All right, so given that reality that it's sort of unanimous that everyone wants to invite Linda to stay a second year, do we want to send COM out to start quizzing the congregation, or do you think Breck's point is well taken, that we've got enough on our plate right now that we don't need to cloud things up with one more thing going on? If we're pretty confident that we're going to ask Linda to stay for a second year, that means when March rolls around, we need to either decide to form a search committee for a settled minister then, or we need to kick it down the road and commit to a developmental or a third year of an interim. I mean, that's sort of what the timeline looks like. Thoughts? Pam, go ahead.
So maybe one of the things that's hard for me during COVID is that we don't get together and talk a lot. It's hard to get the pulse of the congregation without, when we're not together. So it seems to me if the COM would be up for it, sort of getting the pulse of where we are with respect to, not from the, to help us make the decision, but more from the standpoint of how are people feeling and what are the issues that are going on and what should we be thinking of and working on? That would be useful to me.
Okay. More? Elizabeth?
Yeah, so we're back to what's broken, or is there anything broken that we're asking the COM to do? And I guess my shakiness is here we all are believing we're doing a good job. And I don't doubt that the board, during the time in which we fell apart, thought they were doing a good job. So are we all just reassuring each other and we're in the same problem? Or are we transparent and, you know, and helpful and being good leaders? So I guess my second question of the COM is the board doing what you want them to of the congregation? Yes.
All right. Well, after Breck said it, that we've just got so much on our plate right now. I'm sort of leaning toward that. We've got a name change coming up and a pledge drive coming up and a whole bunch of other things, topped off with the pandemic and the fact that we're not together. I am suggesting that we table this and let's get through the holidays and then come and let's revisit this whole thing. I don't want to send the COM out over winter break to start surveying people. I'm sure they have trees to decorate and carols to sing. I think it would be a better use of our time to just kick this down the road to January, come back and see how we're feeling after the holidays, and give it some thought then. We'll be 6 weeks wiser at that point. Pam, what do you think?
I would love to hear what Jude and Dave have to say about this.
Jude and Dave, what do you have to say about this? Jude, you want to go first? No. Okay, we'll give it to Dave. Go ahead, Dave.
I'm grateful that Jude and I came today to get some more input and flesh things out before getting started on anything. And you know, we're, at least I'll speak for myself, open for whatever y'all need us to do. And you know, we're always here to serve and to help in whatever way will be best. This will leave us with a light load on our next meeting on the 14th of this month. But I'm not sure if I'm going to get any complaints from the other 4 members. But you know, if you all have any thoughts or inputs on any holes that need to be filled, you know how to reach me.
All
Jude,
right.
got any other thing to add?
Anything to add to that, Jude?
No, I think it'll give us a good opportunity to talk to the COM and see if we can come up with ideas of how we can talk more with the congregation during this time of not being at the church and just that lack of interaction. So.
All right, then let's table this whole discussion, and Beth, if you'll put this in the parking lot for the January meeting, we'll sort of pick up where we left off.
One question, the January meeting, is that inauguration day?
Oh Lord, is it?
So who here got an invitation to a ball that night?
The 3rd Wednesday, right?
It's the 20th is inauguration day.
Is it?
And that's the 3rd Wednesday.
But we're on the 4th Wednesday, so that would be the 27th.
Oh, you're on the 4th.
Yes.
Okay, well, that's better.
Yeah, I'm sure no one wants to cancel their ball plans. All righty. We are running this clock down and we only have one thing on new business. Is it all right with everyone if we don't take a bio break right now? Would you please email me your requests for gratitude cards? I often take a picture of the screen, and then I managed to lose it on my desktop. So if you have someone that you want to get a gratitude card, can you just email me your person and your requests? And then let's just bounce into the nominating committee. Breck, you had 2 names you want to put out there.
Yes, the nominating committee has actually been pretty busy, which is a little bit unusual for the fall, but there are 2 committees that have expressed a desire to be operating at a little bit fuller capacity. One is Personnel Committee, since we've snagged Jim Corum from them, and the other is the Nominating Committee itself. So they've been speaking with a bunch of people this fall, and they would like to propose Steve Brecker to fill Jim Gorham's seat on the Personnel Committee, and as it happens, Marcia Brecker for an open position on the Nominating Committee. Just as a bit of background, in the past, the Nominating Committee has suggested to fill vacant positions to the board. The way our bylaws are written, is double checking them, is that the board can fill positions of vacant positions, and then they would be voted on by election at the next congregational meeting. And I wanted to double check that because currently the position that Marcia would be filling is not occupied by anyone, but the nominating committee can have 4 to 5 church members. Currently it has 4.
All right. All right. So do you need to make a motion for us to vote on that? Do we need to vote these candidates into position then?
Sure, I can try to craft a motion.
All right.
I move that the board make the following appointments to vacant positions on congressionally elected committees until they can be voted on by election at the next congregational meeting. Steve Brecker to fill the partial position, or the partially filled position vacated by Jim Gorham on the Personnel Committee, and Marcia Brecker for the open position on the Nominating Committee.
All right. I'll second that motion. All in favor, raise your hands, please. All righty, that looks unanimous then. And Beth, did you get those names? Otherwise, okay. Good to go then.
Great, excellent, thank you.
All righty.
And I'll just say as an aside, I'm really grateful that I think this is the first elected position for both of them. So it's getting good to get some new voices and names.
Nice, excellent, great job. All righty. Woohoo, we are just knocking this meeting out. All right, we are up to closing activities. Elizabeth, were you process review? Who was process review tonight?
I was process review, and I don't understand some of my notes, of course. When Linda gave her report, and she had thoughts about leadership and how information is archived, which could have been not part of her report, but what we went into discussion about. We need to make sure to close things by assigning a task so it moves forward. Putting it in the parking lot is not moving it forward. It's just putting off making a decision. So I think that sometimes that is a problem, that things just float for a long time. And the second process was both Liberty and my presentations. I think when somebody's going to give a presentation, they should be more focused on what they want from the board. So you don't just go into comments about that was great, but that the person giving the report, for instance, mine is the new name task force, Having the charge be approved was the one thing I wanted, and having people look at the timeline and see if they had anything to add, which Liberty did by saying, hey, you're not really concentrating on communication enough. When Liberty gave hers, we all liked the report a lot, but she might have, had she thought about at the end of the report saying, now what I want from the board is, and then we would have focused, we would have praised her for a while, but we would have focused on what it was she was bringing the report for.
Okay.
So I think those are the things we should be thinking about when we have a body of work that we're bringing into the board, or somebody else is, to say, look, we're here to be helpful, but tell us how we can be helpful. And maybe it'll go faster because we'll make some good decisions or some good input for the person to use.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Good advice for us all. All right. Next, things to do and things to communicate. Beth, what did we all just promise to do?
Okay, so Rev Linda is going to check with Wayne Arneson.
It's done. He said yes.
Oh, well, we'll check that off. I'll put it as a past tense. Checked with Wayne Arneson. And do we need Sandra Brooks then, or is he's probably pretty capable of doing this?
We're asking her if she would like to help.
Okay.
And we're setting up a meeting with Sally.
Okay, man, you're fast.
Sandy's got some skills, and she's very
Yeah.
quiet about it. So,
Okay, archiving our history. Okay, and then okay, so I kind of changed what the COM was going to do. So they have a meeting on December 14th. I just wanted to put that in the things to do. But they're not going to start actually surveying the congregation yet, or surveying the leadership, but maybe coming up with questions or how to ask questions at a later time. That is pretty much, and then I'm sure the COM has other things on their agenda, and we don't need to know about that. And then Lori, we're gonna email Lori with our gratitude card ideas.
Thank you.
And that's about all I have on the things to do. I have future dates in January. It's the 27th is our next meeting. And we are going to discuss the budget in executive session at that meeting. And we're going to discuss the ministerial search at that meeting.
Yeah, I think the min search will be a big topic at that meeting. If we're all leaning toward that, we need to know what to do, especially as we get closer to the pledge drive. That will also guide our decision in where to go. All right.
I may have missed some tasks.
All right.
We're supposed to actually, between now and then, we're supposed to be still. So don't be very busy.
be
Thanks,
still.
Beth.
Yeah.
Be still. All right.
Oh, on
Anything
tasks,
missed? Go ahead. I'm sorry, Breck.
we all need to go onto the check and sign up for board messaging board welcome.
Oh,
I
yeah.
got Valentine's Day. Ha 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 ha.
All right. Yes, please sign up for the board welcome. The sign up sheet is somewhere. Please sign up. Leah?
So we did acknowledge earlier that this will be this is Alex's last meeting before she heads off on sabbatical. So I want to just make sure everybody knows that on the 13th for the Giving Tree service, the congregation will be charging Alex with a sabbatical charge as she heads off. But it would be good for us to just maybe say sweet things to Alex as we close our meeting tonight, so that she knows she goes on this sabbatical with our blessings and wishes for renewal and rest and discernment and clarity and all the things that she needs during this time that she will be away from us.
Absolutely. Pam, go ahead.
Oh, I love hearing that. Thank you so much, Alex, for all you've done for us this year. I don't know what we could have done without you. I hope that all of this is, your sabbatical is really everything you want it to be.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's super duper meaningful.
All right, Kelsey, go ahead.
Alex, I just know that you've put this off so many times, and I know that's probably compounded your tiredness, and I just wanted to extend my gratitude for all the work you've put in and the times you should have been taking a sabbatical. So yeah, just good wishes, but also many thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Elizabeth, I see your hand.
So I know a sabbatical is supposed to have you seek wisdom and rest and recuperation, but I think you should have an adventure.
Could you please assign the calm to poll the congregation on what adventure I should take, Elizabeth?
Excellent thinking. Liberty, go ahead.
Well, you know, I have been thinking for a long time that I just miss running into everyone but you, and it's particular in the hallways of the church. And I just wish that when I heard that you went to Carleton, I want to small talk about Northfield, Minnesota and Carleton people. And I was like, this is the kind of thing we would do in the soup line. Like, when am I going to get to chat about the town that smells like cream of wheat all of the time? So you remember that about Northfield?
Did you go to St. Olaf?
I went to the University of Minnesota, but
oh, okay.
I know Carleton people. I know some ultimate Frisbee players from Carleton. So, so I just wanted to say I will be wishing you the best, and I appreciate too that you paused the sabbatical because of us not having no minister. And I remember when you announced that, and I just felt so grateful, but also like, oh man, like she had the keys to the gates, and now we closed it on her again. And so you just have the best time and recharge, and thank you for being here for us when we truly needed you.
Jim, go ahead.
I just want to say that, yeah, echoing that, you did come in and be a superhero to save us in a time of great stress. But now I have another, I think 2021 is going to be so much better than 2020, even how could it be worse, right? So, but another thing to look forward to, which is change in our presidential administration. We can see the light at the end of the tunnel for the COVID, and now we also have you returning to look forward to. So I'm going to add that to my list of things that I'm going to look forward to in 2021.
Very nice. All right. Well, Beth, go ahead.
I wish you just, I don't want to keep saying what everyone has said, but Jim kind of stole my superhero thing. I know, Alex, you have such incredible superpowers with your pastoral care and your teaching. You're so wonderful with our, not only our pastoral visitors, you know, they're like professionals now, but also with the worship weavers. And you just dove right in with this virtual thing and taught everyone how to do it with such expertise, and I'll always be grateful.
Breck, go ahead.
Wow. Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I just wanted to say, I can't wait to just hear what you're able to do and achieve and find in your time. You've got such an inquisitive mind, and I love following the threads of your sermons and the things that you bring up and the things that you extract out of conversations. And so I'm just in awe and kind of in wonderment of what you might be able to achieve with the time and space to follow that through in the kind of space that a sabbatical provides. So have fun.
All right.
Wow. Well, I'm really, can I respond now, Lori, or are there more people?
I'm looking for more hands to shoot up, but I think you're in the clear. Go ahead, Alex.
Well, I'm touched and moved, so thank you, Leah, for, I'm just kind of a little bit speechless. I'm moved in my heart and body, and the minister in me just wants to say, there are many superheroes here, and Linda's been very wise, and some of the best practices that I've been reading about are very wise, that it's a process. And at the end of the sabbatical, there will be time for the congregation and the board to say, where are we now? And what have we learned? And what did we learn from that absence? And I will also be able to reflect on that. And so the returning is just as much as part of the wisdom and as the leaving. And Linda has a lot of wisdom about how different stages can unfold in lots of different ways.
Nice. All right. Thank you to everyone. And now finally, we can impose one last time, or actually if I can impose one last time, Alex, do you have any closing words you would like to share with us? Since you're on your way out the door, this could be your...
Yes, I invite everyone here to take a moment of stillness. Blessed be. Amen.
Thank you. That was lovely. All right, everyone. That was a fabulous doubleheader meeting. We got a lot of stuff accomplished, and we will meet again in the incredibly fabulous 2021 when we have our next board meeting. And someone said, I think it was Jim, 2021, there's nowhere to go but up from 2020. We have a lot to look forward to next year. So, all right, thank you, everyone. Have a lovely evening. And if I don't see you all on Sunday, I'll see you even sooner than that. So have a good night, and thank you so much.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Bye, friends.
Good night.
Bye.